She cheated once, I forgave her, then watched her sleep with dozens for 10 years. Throwaway because my real Reddit is too linked to people I actually know. This is long, so strap in. I, M42, have been married to my wife Laura, F41, for going on 17 years now. We got married right out of college, high school sweethearts and all that cliché stuff. We've got 2 kids together, ages 12 and 9. Up until about 10 years ago, I would have told you I had a good life. Boring maybe, suburban maybe, but good. Then she cheated. That sentence feels weird to type out, even now. It was a guy from her gym, I didn't know him, but I'd seen the texts. I found them by accident when I was using her laptop to order something for our daughter's birthday. Her messages were open, and I scrolled too far without thinking. That's how it started. There was no big confrontation. I froze. I didn't even tell her I knew until 3 days later, after I spent a full weekend playing Happy Dad while dying inside. When I did bring it up, she didn't deny it. She cried, told me she didn't know why she did it, that she felt lonely, unattractive, like the spark was gone. I listened to all of it like I was underwater. I should have ended it then. Looking back, that would have been the clean break. But I didn't. I was scared of breaking up our family, scared of hurting the kids, scared of being alone at 32. I told myself it was a one-time thing and we could get through it. That's when she brought up the idea of opening the marriage. She said it gently, like she was trying not to spook me. She framed it as a way to rebuild trust, no secrets, total honesty. We both get what we need without sneaking around, she said. This way, we choose each other every day. It sounded like hell to me. But I said yes. I don't know what was going through my head. Maybe I thought if I agreed, she'd lose interest in the other guys and come back to me. Maybe I just didn't want to fight. But I agreed to it with one rule, I didn't want to know details. I couldn't handle that. So she started seeing people. At first, it was maybe once a month. Then it picked up new outfits, late nights, girls' weekends that were just her and a guy from some app. Meanwhile, I stayed home with the kids. I did the soccer practices, the homework, the dinners. She always came back with a smile and a story about finding herself. One night, maybe 6 months in, I came home early from a work thing. Her car was in the driveway, lights were on. I figured maybe she was alone. I walked in through the garage, quietly, like usual. And I heard them. She was in our bedroom, with someone else. I stood in the hallway like a statue. I didn't knock, didn't make a sound. Just turned around, walked out, and sat in my car for an hour. I didn't bring it up. That was part of the deal, right? No secrets. But I felt like a ghost in my own house. I kept telling myself I was doing it for the kids. That they deserved a stable home, 2 parents under one roof. And I kept pretending it was okay. At work, I was distant. I stopped going out with friends. I drank more. I smiled less. Every time I tried to get close to her romantically, emotionally, she'd say something like we're in different seasons of life or I need space to grow. But she never stopped the arrangement. I thought about cheating too. I downloaded apps, even talked to a few women. But it felt fake. Forced. I wasn't interested in hookups. I wanted my wife back. I wanted our life back. Every now and then, she'd suggest I get out there too, like it was some fun game. But I couldn't do it. I think a part of me still hoped she'd come around. That one day she'd say, okay, I'm done exploring. Let's be us again. That day never came. Instead, the open marriage just became our new normal. I was the stable dad, the stay-at-home base. She was the one with excitement and mystery. And I told myself, over and over, that this was just what modern marriage looked like. That maybe I was just old-fashioned or jealous or too sensitive. But deep down, I hated it. I hated how she looked at other people. I hated how I didn't matter anymore. I hated that I let it happen. There were moments, tiny ones, where I thought maybe we could course correct. Like when she'd hold my hand during a movie. Or when we'd laugh about something the kids said. I lived off crumbs for a long time. I convinced myself those crumbs were signs. Hope. They weren't. One time, around year 2 of the arrangement, she forgot to log out of her email on the family computer. I saw a thread with one of her partners explicit, but also weirdly emotional. He called her his light. She called him home. I shut the laptop and didn't touch it for 3 days. I asked her, gently, if she ever caught feelings. She said, sometimes, but I always come back to you. I smiled and nodded. And then I went to the bathroom and threw up. Nobody knew any of this. Not her parents, not mine. To the outside world, we were just another busy couple juggling kids and work. Nobody saw the fracture lines, the dead look I'd sometimes catch in the mirror. So yeah. That's how it started. That's how I ended up here, 10 years later, in the same house, same woman, same arrangement. But I'm not the same. Not even close. It's hard to explain how you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely invisible. The second year of the open marriage was when it really started to sink in. That this wasn't a phase. That she wasn't going to snap out of it. That this was life now. And I kept pretending. Pretending I was fine. Pretending I was okay with it. Pretending that it wasn't weird that my wife was more excited about getting ready for a date with a stranger than she ever was for any of our anniversaries. I remember this one night, kids were asleep, I was doing dishes. Laura came downstairs in a red dress I didn't even know she owned. Hair curled, perfume that hit me like a punch. She looked amazing. I actually smiled and said, wow. She didn't hear me. She was already texting whoever it was and checking her reflection in the microwave door. When the door closed behind her, I finished the dishes, poured a whiskey, and sat in the backyard staring into nothing. I don't know why that night hit me harder than the others. Maybe because she didn't even look back. Maybe because I still hoped she would. She always came back, technically. She'd sneak into bed hours later, sometimes smelling like sweat and cologne, sometimes just showered, like nothing happened. She was always polite. Casual. Fun night, she'd say. I'd nod. Cool. We'd roll over and sleep like roommates. I never asked who they were. I told myself that was healthy. That not knowing made it easier. Truth is, not knowing made it worse. My brain filled in the blanks with the worst possible things. Younger guys. Fitter guys. Guys who made her laugh, made her feel wanted. Meanwhile, I was just there. At some point, sex between us stopped completely. Not overnight. It just kind of withered. Once every few months turned into once a year. Eventually, even hugs felt weird. I didn't initiate anymore because the rejection got too loud. She didn't either, and I stopped wondering why. We still co-parented. We were good at that. School runs, birthday parties, Halloween costumes. We were the fun parents to everyone else. Coordinated, present, smiling. We never fought. And maybe that's what fooled everyone. I think sometimes it even fooled me. But inside? I was shutting down. I started drinking more. Not blackout drunk. Just enough to numb the evenings. 1 or 2 beers turned into 3 or 4. Every night. I gained weight. I stopped shaving on weekends. I started sleeping in a guest room to get better rest. We never talked about it. I tried to date. I really did. Downloaded all the apps. Had a few chats. Met a woman for coffee once. She was nice, divorced, sweet. I couldn't stop thinking about Laura the whole time. I couldn't even focus. I went home that night and deleted the app. I told myself I wasn't ready. Truth is, I didn't know what I even wanted anymore. Laura encouraged me to try again. You deserve fun too, she'd say. Like we were both part of some weird social experiment. She said it kindly, genuinely. But it always made my skin crawl. I didn't want fun. I wanted to matter to her. I wanted to feel like I wasn't just the guy she came home to when everyone else went home. She never rubbed it in my face. She never disrespected me in front of the kids. But the silence between us was its own language. Her happiness was elsewhere. She looked at her phone more than she looked at me. And I stopped being angry about it. That's what scared me the most. I just accepted it. I adjusted. I folded myself into the shape of the man she needed me to be: reliable, invisible, undemanding. I stopped having expectations. That way I couldn't be disappointed. We went on a family trip once, to a cabin up north. The kids were so excited: fishing, board games, s'mores. For a few days, we felt like a normal family again. Laura and I even laughed together a few times. I let myself believe it meant something. Then on the third night, I woke up to find her outside on the porch, whispering on the phone. I didn't confront her. I just sat on the couch and listened to the quiet. She came back in, saw me, paused like she was going to explain, but didn't. She just said, "It's chilly out," and went to bed. That was our thing. Pretend nothing happened. Move forward. The worst part was, the kids didn't know. They thought we were happy. They called her mommy and called me dad and drew crayon pictures of all four of us holding hands. I kept those drawings like proof that I wasn't crazy. That something still worked. My parents didn't ask questions. Her parents didn't either. We had a great front. Holidays, family photos, group texts. Nobody saw it. And I didn't volunteer it. Because how do you even explain it? How do you say, "My wife has slept with dozens of men," while I sit at home and try to convince myself I'm not the pathetic one? How do you say, "I agreed to it because I was too scared to lose her, and now I've lost myself instead"? You don't. You just keep living it. 10 years. 10 years of nodding and smiling and going to work and watching her get dressed for other people. 10 years of dinners where I asked how her day was knowing she'd been in someone else's bed. 10 years of silence where a marriage used to be. And here's the twist: I don't even hate her. That's the strangest part. I still love her in this weird, tired way. Like a house you grew up in that doesn't feel like home anymore, but you still can't let go of it. She's not cruel. She never was. I don't think she ever meant to hurt me. I think she really believed this could work. That it was modern, fair, evolved. I think she thought we were building something new. Maybe we were. I just don't recognize it. I'm not sure when it happened, but I started talking to myself. In the car, in the shower, sometimes in the garage late at night. Full-on conversations. Arguing, rationalizing, begging myself to feel something again. Anything. I told myself I was strong. That I was doing this for the kids. That stability mattered more than pride. That I could survive it if I just held on. But lately, I'm starting to wonder if surviving is really living. If being the good guy is worth disappearing for. I miss being seen. I miss being chosen. And I don't know what scares me more, the idea that this is my life forever, or the idea that I might finally be ready to walk away. There was this guy, Eric. I didn't meet him right away. Laura mentioned him a few times in passing: a friend from work, someone I've been talking to a lot. She dropped his name like it was casual, like we were still in a place where I wanted to hear that. Eventually, he started showing up. Not all at once. First it was just dropping by to pick her up. Then it was helping with a weekend project, fixing our fence. Then it was dinner. Just as a friend, she said. She was open about it, like that made it less insane. The first time he ate at our table, he brought a bottle of wine and flowers. For her. In our kitchen. I stood there holding a salad bowl and felt like the punchline in a cruel joke. He was charming. That was the worst part. The guy was younger than me, maybe mid-30s, clean-cut, athletic, that fake humble confidence that makes people love him right away. The kids liked him. He knew how to talk to them. He was funny. Helpful. Generous. The kind of guy who actually says things like, "Let me help clean up." One time, I came home from work and found him tossing a football with my son in the front yard. My son was laughing, really laughing, the kind of laugh I hadn't heard in weeks. I stood in the doorway and watched. I didn't even walk out to say hi. I just waited until they were done and Eric left. Then I helped my son with his homework like nothing happened. Laura acted like this was all normal. She'd say things like, "I love how he gets along with the kids," or "Isn't it great having extra support?" Support. That's what she called it. Like I wasn't already there every single day, making lunches, packing backpacks, signing permission slips. There was this moment, it sounds dumb, but it sticks in my head. I was doing laundry, folding towels in the living room, and she walked in wearing one of his hoodies. Just casual, like it belonged in our house. I don't know why that one detail set me off, but I felt something in my chest crack open. We argued that night. For real. For the first time in a long time. I didn't yell, not at first. I just asked, is this what you wanted when you said open marriage? For someone else to raise our kids with you? She blinked. Eric's not raising them. He's part of my life now. And I'm what? The guy who mows the lawn. You're their father, she said, quietly. That's never changed. But it had. Everything had. And for once, I let myself say it out loud. I feel like a roommate who pays the bills and waits around while you play house with someone else. She looked genuinely hurt. You agreed to this. Yeah. 10 years ago. One night after you cheated. I wasn't agreeing to this. We didn't talk for 2 days after that. The air in the house was brittle. Even the kids noticed. My daughter asked if we were mad at each other. I lied and said we were just tired. Eric didn't come around for a while after that. I think she asked him to stay away temporarily. But it didn't last. He was back within a few weeks, this time quieter, more careful. Like he didn't want to spook the system. The thing is, I wasn't just mad at him. I was mad at myself. Mad that I'd let it go this far. Mad that I hadn't stood up for anything. Mad that I had no one to blame but me. That's when I finally started therapy. I didn't tell Laura at first. I just Googled local therapists and booked a session with a guy named Don who worked out of a little converted house near the grocery store. First appointment, I sat there for 10 minutes just staring at the carpet before I could speak. I think I made a huge mistake, was all I said at first. Over the next few weeks, it all came out. Not just the marriage, but everything. The drinking. The silence. The isolation. The part where I didn't know who I was anymore. Don was patient. He asked good questions. He didn't try to fix me, just gave me space to hear myself talk. And I realized something, I had never really set boundaries. Not once. I didn't know how. I just absorbed everything and called it sacrifice. I came home after one session and sat in my car for half an hour. Just sat there. No music, no phone. I stared at the garage door and thought, I don't want to walk into that house. Not because of Laura. Not because of Eric. Because of me. Because I wasn't sure if I existed in there anymore. Laura noticed the change. She asked where I'd been going once a week. I told her. She didn't say much. Just nodded. A few days later, she left a note on my pillow, I'm glad you're talking to someone. It was the first kind thing she'd said to me in months. I don't want to paint her as a villain. She's not. But she's living in a story where I'm just a background character. And for the first time, I didn't want that anymore. I started doing little things, wearing clothes that fit better, shaving more, eating real meals. I went for walks without music. I said no to things. Small, unimportant things. But they felt huge to me. And Eric? I stopped pretending he wasn't part of the equation. I acknowledged it. Not out loud, not to his face, but in my head. I said, he's here. You hate it. And it's okay to hate it. I told Don in one session, I don't think I can stay in this much longer. And Don said, what's stopping you? I didn't have a good answer. Laura and I still didn't fight much. But the distance was visible now. We were polite. Functional. Like coworkers running a very complicated nonprofit. And Eric became the unspoken shadow in every room. One night, he stayed over. That had never happened before. At least not that I knew of. The kids were asleep. I saw his shoes by the front door. His laugh in the kitchen. The sound of their footsteps upstairs. I slept in my car that night. No explanation. No note. Just couldn't be in that house. And when I came back the next morning, she looked at me like I was the one who needed to explain something. That's when something broke. Not a dramatic, screaming kind of break. Just quiet. Final. Like a door closing somewhere far away. I knew then I wasn't going to survive another 10 years like this. Hell, I wasn't even sure I could survive one more. There was a woman at work named Mia. We weren't close. She worked in a different department. But we'd see each other around break room, staff meetings, the occasional lunch when groups overlapped. She had a quiet way about her. Smart, a little sarcastic, not the flirty kind. That's what I liked. She didn't play games. One afternoon, we ended up staying late on the same project. It was just logistics stuff, budget forms and spreadsheets, but we were both tired and joking by the end of it. As we packed up, she said, "You know, you laugh like someone who used to be happier." It caught me off guard. I must have looked surprised because she added, "Sorry. That sounded weird. I just meant, you seem heavy." Heavy. That word stuck with me. We didn't talk much after that, but I started noticing her more. The way she listened to people. How she always offered gum before meetings. One time I saw her help a new intern with the coffee machine for 15 minutes without acting annoyed. She just had this presence. Calm, but grounded. A few weeks later, she asked if I wanted to grab lunch. Just lunch. Neutral territory. I said yes without thinking. And honestly, it was the first time in years I felt like someone saw me. Not the broken down version. Not Laura's husband or dad. Just me. We talked about books. I told her I used to write short stories. She said she played guitar but hadn't touched it in 2 years. It was simple, easy. Human. I didn't tell Laura. At first, it wasn't anything. I kept telling myself that. Just lunch. Just a conversation. Just someone who made me feel like I still existed. But then it became a second lunch. Then coffee. Then a walk after work where we didn't say much, just let the silence be comfortable. And then, one night, she touched my hand when we were sitting outside on a bench, and I didn't pull away. I didn't sleep with her. Not then. But emotionally? I was gone. I knew it. I think I'd been gone for a while. Mia just reminded me what it felt like to matter. Laura noticed the change. She started asking questions. "You've been working late a lot. Who's Mia? You seem different." I didn't lie. Not really. I just didn't say everything. She's just a coworker. I've been focused on projects. Therapy's helping. All technically true. Then one evening, Laura was doing dishes, and I was making tea, and she turned around and said, "Are you seeing her?" I froze. Not because I was caught I hadn't done anything technically wrong. But because the question didn't come from suspicion. It came from fear. I didn't answer right away. That was answer enough. She sat down at the kitchen table without a word. And I realized, in that moment, that she never expected me to want anything else. She built a life where I was fixed in place. Where I'd stay no matter what. And for years, I had. "I haven't slept with her," I said finally. "But yeah. I like her." She nodded. "Just once. No anger. No screaming. Just this quiet, stunned look, like someone knocked the wind out of her." The next day, she didn't speak to me. That silence lasted a week. I kept things normal with the kids. Made dinner, did drop-offs, helped with homework. But the house was colder. Not physically. Emotionally. It was like living in a museum version of our life, everything still in place, but hollowed out. And then, one morning, I woke up and Mia had texted, "You don't owe me anything. But if you ever want to talk, I'm here." I stared at that message for 20 minutes. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to. Because I wasn't sure what I wanted anymore. Laura and I finally talked again the following weekend. We were in the backyard, pretending to garden. She said, "You know what hurts the most? I never thought you'd do this." I looked at her, really looked at her, and said, "You've done this for 10 years. That was different," she snapped. "Why?" "Because you agreed." "And you think I meant forever?" She didn't respond. Just picked at a weed until the root snapped in her hand. I wanted to be cruel. I wanted to list names, years, the nights I stayed awake while she was with someone else. But what was the point? We both knew what this was. We were at the end of something. We just hadn't admitted it yet. Later that night, I found our son in the hallway, sitting with his knees pulled up to his chest. I sat next to him and asked what was wrong. He said, "You and Mom don't talk like you used to." I didn't know what to say. I lied again. Sometimes grown-ups get tired. It doesn't mean we don't love you. He didn't look convinced. Neither was I. That was the moment it really hit me. It wasn't just about me and Laura anymore. The kids were feeling it. They were smart. Sensitive. They knew something was wrong. Mia wasn't the problem. Eric wasn't either. The problem was the rot we let fester for 10 years while smiling through birthdays and holiday dinners. And now it was showing. I told Laura that night, "I'm not blaming you." I went along with it. I let it happen. But I can't do it anymore. She nodded. No fight left. Just resignation. She asked, "So what now?" And I said, "I don't know." Because I really didn't. I didn't know if I wanted a divorce, or just distance. I didn't know if I loved her anymore, or just the idea of who she used to be. I didn't know if I was running toward Mia or just away from my own emptiness. But I knew I couldn't keep pretending. We agreed to take a break. A real one. Not open, not negotiated, just space. We told the kids I'd be staying at a friend's place for a while because of work. Another lie. But one that bought us time. The night I packed a bag, Laura stood in the doorway of our room. She didn't cry. I didn't either. There was just this look between us, 10 years of noise, finally quiet. She said, "I thought we were stronger than this." I said, "We were. Until we weren't." And then I laughed. I didn't go to Mia's. I went to a hotel near the edge of town. Small. Cheap. Quiet. I sat on the bed and looked at the ceiling and thought, I don't feel guilty. I felt, still. Not happy. Not free. But still. And that was new. It's been 4 months since I left. I moved into a small apartment about 15 minutes from the house. 2 bedrooms, if you can even call the second one that. It's more like a walk-in closet with ambition. But it's mine. I picked the furniture. I chose the towels. I even have a plant. It's half dead, but we're figuring things out. The first week was weird. I kept waking up at 6 a.m. out of habit, thinking I had to pack lunches or check a homework folder. I'd just lie there staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake. I'd never lived alone before. Straight from my parents' house to college housing to married life. Now it was just me. I got used to the silence quicker than I expected. I started walking every evening after dinner, no headphones, just the sound of the neighborhood, dogs barking, kids yelling, sprinklers hissing. I learned the names of the guys at the corner deli. I found a barber who didn't talk too much. I got comfortable with quiet. Laura and I kept things civil. She didn't fight me on custody. We split the weeks, 3 days with me, 3 with her. Sundays are flexible. The kids adjusted faster than I thought they would. I was scared they'd ask too many questions, but they just rolled with it. Kids are resilient like that. The first night they stayed with me, I overcooked the pasta and burned the garlic bread. They laughed and said, "It's okay, Dad, we'll teach you." We ended up eating cereal and watching a movie on the couch. That moment meant more to me than 100 quiet dinners from the last 10 years. I told Laura I didn't want to go back. Not as a threat. Just truth. I said, I need to figure out who I am without this marriage. She nodded. Said she understood. I think, in her own way, she meant it. Eric is still around. He picks up the kids sometimes. We don't talk much, but we nod when we cross paths. It doesn't sting anymore. Not really. He's not my problem. I don't spend energy on that now. Mia and I didn't become a couple. We went for coffee once, after I moved out. She asked how I was doing, and I told her, honestly, still figuring it out. She smiled and said, "Good. Take your time." That was it. No pressure. No promises. I don't know if something will happen there. I'm not trying to make it happen. For once, I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm just existing. Healing. Paying attention. I started writing again. Nothing crazy, short stuff, journal entries, the kind of writing you don't show anyone. But it feels good to use that part of my brain again. To sit with my thoughts and make something out of them. Therapy's still part of my week. Don says I've come a long way. I think he's right. I'm not angry anymore. I don't feel like a ghost. I don't dread coming home. I even put up some pictures. Not of the past. Of now. The kids playing with bubbles in the park. A blurry sunset from my balcony. A stupid selfie I took with toothpaste on my shirt. Real stuff. Unfiltered. Some nights I miss the idea of what my marriage was supposed to be. The comfort. The routine. The us that felt safe. But then I remember how lonely I was in that comfort. How small I became trying to make something work that wasn't working. I don't blame Laura. Not anymore. She was honest about what she needed. I wasn't honest about what I could live with. That part's on me. I stayed too long. I let it shape me into someone I didn't recognize. And now, I'm undoing that. People ask sometimes, coworkers, old friends who finally caught on, are you okay? I tell them yes. Not the fake kind. The real kind. Because even on hard days, I know I'm living on my own terms. The other night, my daughter asked, are you happy now? It caught me off guard. I thought for a second and said, I think I'm getting there. And that was the truth. Not a perfect answer. But honest. I don't know what's next. I'm not making big plans. Not chasing some perfect version of a life I used to think I needed. I'm waking up, making coffee, answering emails, showing up for my kids, going to bed a little less heavy than the day before. That's enough for now. I'm not angry anymore. Not sad. Just here. And for the first time in a long time, I like who's here with me.